Hey everyone, and welcome to Comic Breakdown. If you haven't, be sure to like and sub to the page. And today we're going to be getting into Road to Empyre, the Kree Skrull War. Now this is a build up to Empyre, the new Marvel issues that's going to be coming out. It's going to be a really interesting and fun story. You don't really need a whole lot of information on previous comics to be able to jump into this. This one's really going to give us a lot of backstory on this storyline. So without further ado, let's dive in. So diving into this issue, we're met with the Skrull family. And they're essentially operatives that are stationed on Earth to find as much information about Project Blossom as they can. Project Blossom is essentially a technology that reveals Skrulls hidden on Earth. While these operations are happening, the father or commander of these guys is betrayed by the handler, and one of the daughters had been kidnapped. Before he dies, he's able to reveal the location of where the daughter's being kept. And she's essentially being tortured. Her blood's being used to create the technology to expose and destroy any Skrulls that are on Earth. And as they're clearing out this facility, they come across something, a type of plant or leaf or something of that nature. And the mother goes in to inform them exactly of what it is. And she explains to them before this war happened, the Skrull Empire wasn't a military dominant culture. They were really pacifists. And they would go out and share their technology and for trade. And so they did this all over the universe until they got to Hala, homeworld of the Kree. And there was two different species of sentient beings here. They had the Kree that were living here and the Koatai. And so to determine who the superior race was, the Skrulls took the best from each civilization and put them onto a moon and said whoever can create the best civilization will be the one that we offer our hand to. The best one to create. And the Kree build a magnificent city from their bare hands, while the Koatai, they build a beautiful garden. And the Kree, fearing that they're gonna lose, they slay the Koatai. And not only them, but they also slay all the Skrulls. And this is what eventually becomes, and this is the beginning of the war. And it only has progressively gotten worse and worse until the Skrulls became the fighting force they are today. And the war is still raging on to this day, and it's even here on Earth. And so they take what's remaining of this with them, because the Kree must have been experimenting on it for some reason. They don't want it experimented on. And they talk about the Celestial Messiah, and it seems to be more of just a story. There's speculation on if it's actually a true story or not, at least according to the Skrull family. But they go into a prophecy about a perfect human female, the Celestial Madonna, and a Koatai, and their union would bring about the Celestial Messiah. Now there's a story of Kree priests that lived on Hala, and they stuck to the more pacifist ways still, and they heard a voice in their head calling to them, which brought them deep underground, and they found a remnants left of the Koatai. And fearing that these guys would get killed, the priests took them all over the universe, planting them all over so that they could hide amongst the natural vegetation, even bringing one to Earth. In doing this, Swordsman fuses with one of the Koatai and ends up having a union with Mantis. And through this union, a son is born, and it goes by the name of Sequoia, or just Koya. And he's pretty much like a universal Jesus. And he had an interaction with Thanos. The Avengers helped defeat him, and now he's said to have been out in space cleaning up the mess that Thanos made. But he hasn't been really seen since then. But they say it's just a story. And before they're able to get too much more into this discussion, a giant explosion happens. And we see a Kree standing on the phone saying that it's done. And out of the flames, we see a giant monster. And it spits out the Skrull family. And it seemed to have been Ivy, and she'd been practicing her shape-shifting, and she shape-shifted into this giant monster that protected the family. And they had picked up a transmission back at the facility, and they're trying to decode it. And all they got from it was, Kree, this is hulking. Now, hulking comes from Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel was defeated by a super Skrull, and he was brought before the Skrull Empire. And the princess of the Skrull Empire ended up falling for him, and they ended up having a child. Fear that this child would be killed, the child was sent with a handmaiden to Earth. And for most of his life, he believed himself to be a mutant. He even joined with the Young Avengers for quite a while. You know, he lived a human life. He fell in love with a human man. He battled side by side with the Avengers, but eventually he found out his true origins. He found out that he's part Skrull and part Kree. But they're really unsure about where his allegiances are lying. especially now that he's communicating with the Kree. It could be disastrous for them. And so the family arrives at the man who tried to blow up their building because they had been tracking him. And as they get their weapons ready, Ivy really insists that, why can't we do this peacefully? And we go into another backstory about how there once was peace. Like years ago, there was peace. Representatives were sent from all over the galaxy to watch the trial of the Phoenix. There was Skrull and a Kree present. And these two ended up battling each other, and it went on for what seemed to be ever. And the Watcher wanted to put it into this fight, so he said whoever was the champion was the winner of the war, and the war would end. And as they continued to fight, we see the Fantastic Four and Inhumans essentially attack them, forcing them to join forces. And because they realized that they were such an awesome team together, and they essentially defeated all of these people, the Watcher declared that the war was over and that there shall be peace, but it really was all a ruse to try to get them to stop fighting. And so the family goes upstairs to try to get the assassin. The mother kicks in the door, and her daughter stops her from firing because the whole family's sitting around the table, and she just feels like this is something I can really do. And this is when the Kree gets a message, and it's letting them know that all Kree and Skrull soldiers in the field, they need to listen to their new emperor. The Skrulls and the Krees have joined in a giant armada, a giant army, the biggest army ever seen. And they're all flying to one destination, to destroy their common enemy. And they're flying to Earth. And that is where this issue will end. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think about Hulking taking over for the Skrull and the Kree, the Skrull and the Kree, I'm sorry. I really find it really unique. I'm really excited to see what's going to come all of this. The Celestial, Messiah, all of these different approaches that are going to be coming out. We should be seeing the next issue coming out next month, I believe, on the 25th. So definitely make sure you guys subscribe to the page, hit the little bell so you guys don't miss any of my content. And until the next video.